Hi, everybody. This is Carol Hill, and today is day 5 of our U.S. South Facebook event, How to Find Tennessee Ancestors in the Early 1800s. And so, step 5, we're going to talk about, did your ancestor own land? So, how would you know if they own land? And if you think back of our yesterday's video about tax records, possibly if you were able to find a tax record in that county you're looking for, they may have been being taxed for having land. So you would know that way. And sometimes on the later census records, you can find if they owned or rented where they were living. So those are a couple of ways, but sometimes you won't find those things. And so it's still good to check and see if they own land. And so I hope you'll watch the video that I posted for today from Krista Cowan. She's the Barefoot Genealogist from Ancestry.com, and she does a great video about land records. And then she'll also show you how to search for land records on Ancestry. And so please watch that. And then what I'm going to do, though, is I want to go ahead and show you how to find land records on FamilySearch. So because it will be different, because the land records are not indexed yet. So before we get started, I wanted to tell you about a couple of terms that you'll need to know. So you'll see grantor, which is actually the seller of property, and that's an individual who conveys or transfers ownership of property. So it could be land, it could be some other type of property, but you'll see that term grantor. And then the grantee is actually the buyer. So that's an individual to whom a transfer or conveyance of property is made. So you'll see that grantor if they're selling, grantee if they're buying. So since land records aren't indexed yet on FamilySearch, there's a lot of them that are digitized, and you can view them. It's a little bit more tricky. It's nicer to be able to just search for a name and be able for it to pop up, but there is ways to get around that. So I'm going to be showing you that. So a couple other things you need to know is there is a direct index that you'll want to find when you're looking in a county for land records, and that's alphabetized by the grantor. So if you know your ancestor owned property, then you can look at the grantor if you think they're selling it. And then also the reverse index is alphabetized by the grantee or the buyer. So if your ancestor is buying property, then it's easier to find them in that reverse index. And you'll actually want to look at both of them, because they will be selling and then they'll be buying. And one reason why I love land records is sometimes a landowner will pass away, and then sometimes the whole family will be listed on the deed. And that's what we're going to be looking for in these indexes, is we're going to be looking for the actual deed of what they bought and what they sold. And you can get some amazing things like daughters that with their married last names, and that'll help you so much in finding them going forward. So let's go ahead, before we get into showing you on FamilySearch, I wanted to show you just an idea of a way that you can keep track when you're going through these land records, sort of like what I did on the tax records. Because as you're going through these indexes, you're going to be you want to write down the information, so somewhere, and it doesn't have to be in this table form, but this is just how it's going to look when you look at the index. So for the direct index, you will see grantor, volume, book, page, acres, and grantee. And so this is nice just to fill out, because you're going to be going through, the index, and you'll want to just pull out everybody. A lot of times you'll want to do the surnames of those that you're researching so that you can start putting it together, especially on these early, when you're trying to find your early ancestors. So that's the direct index. And then the reverse index is just reverse, like it says. So it'll have the grantee first, volume, book, page, acres, and then the grantor. So just an easier way to find them if they're buying or selling with these different indexes. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to go ahead and go to FamilySearch so I can show you how to find these. And we're going to go to the catalog. Go to the FamilySearch catalog. The default's the place. We're going to search for Someone told me it's Murray, not Murray. So I'm going to try to say that. Murray County, Tennessee, and search button right there. And this will come up with all of the films that FamilySearch has at the Family History Library in Salt Lake, and sometimes there are other places as well. But so many of them now are digitized and online. So what you're going to want to do is look at these categories, land and property. As you can see, there's 6 here. There's these indexes here. Land and property maps. This is just a map of 1878 land ownership, and that's really fun to look at if you can find a map with the names on the map, and then you can see who the neighbors are. So that's fun if you can find those. We're going to go ahead and open this top one because I want to get into these deed books and show you how you go about this. Okay, so here we are, and the first thing you see is an index, and the direct index here covers the years 1807 to 1877, and that's the one we're going to want for this early time period. So to get to it, you'll come over here to this camera, and that's the browse, so you can browse the images. And I thought it was interesting that they do have, you can browse these, but then the later years you can't browse, and maybe that's because maybe Ancestry has those on, so maybe they're not worried about getting those digitized yet. You used to could order these microfilms and then go to an LDS Family History Center, but they're no longer doing that anymore. So just want you to be aware of that. So let's go ahead and click on this browse the images. Okay, and I'm signed in already. It may have you sign in, and let me show you this. So this is volume 1, the direct index, so that's going to be the Grand Tours first, 1807 to 1843. So since we've been finding them in the 1830 and 1840 census, this will be a good one to look at. So what we would do is this starts with surnames of A's and then goes all the way up to Z. So we'll go ahead. I've actually found them on the index, and I'll just go ahead and go to image 151 and then hit my enter button. And then as soon as this clears up, we'll zoom in and I can show you what this is like. Okay. Okay, so here is what we're going to be looking at. This is the Grand Tour, the volume, the book, the page, the acreage. As you can see, it's a sale. There's even a gift, and then grantee. So, and a trust deed sale. There's a lot of different items that you'll find under acres. That's just how they list the topic. But anyway, this is what you would fill out as you find some of your ancestors' surnames, even though you don't know how they might be related. Okay, so let's come down. I found this A.B. Mayfield. I don't know what that stands for, but this is volume 1, book L, page 159, and it's 93 acres that A.B. is selling to Andrew Neely. So we would write that down on the sheet or on the table, and then we would still just keep looking down for Mayfields. Okay, and then here's a John Mayfield, and he is in book M, page 33, and he's selling something to Elijah Payton. So we want to look at that too. So that's just this one page. You would want to go through until, to the end of the index for M's and look at some of these records and see if you can figure out some relationships and things. So, but now what we want to do is we know where they are in these books, and now we've got to go find the books. Okay. All right. So here's the deed books right here, volumes A through B, C through D, E through G. And so we would come down because we're looking at L through M, and the years were 1824 to 1829. And so these are volume 1. It doesn't tell you there, but if you found them in volume 2, it would look more like this, A2, B2. So sometimes that can be a little confusing finding where they are. But anyway, this is the one we're going to look at. We're going to go all the way across, again, to browse the images. Let's go ahead and click on that camera. Okay, so we are first going to look at A.B. Mayfield. He was selling 93 acres to that Andrew Neely, and I looked through, so he is on page 159. I know that's image 68. So you just kind of have to look through at the page numbers, and I'll show you where the page numbers are. So this is 68. Okay, if you look, sometimes they're hard to read too. Here is page, let me see if I hope you can see that okay. Here is page 159 up here in the right-hand corner. And sometimes you'll find a couple of deeds on a page. So this isn't A.B. Mayfield selling his land. But if you come down here, and like I said, it's kind of hard, I know, to read. There's this Andrew Neely deed for 93 acres conveyed by A.B. Mayfield. And what's interesting about this is that this says this was done in 1923. And one thing interesting is these are both, they both live in Murray County. And so it's nice because sometimes you'll have them living in different counties, you know, and so that'll help you go back and find that person in another county. And so the description of these are fun. They are meets and bounds. And so you'll get a description like beginning at a stake at Whiteside North East, and then it'll say about going to, you know, going thence east 68 poles to another stake, and then north 138 poles. And so it's kind of fun. It's kind of a different, they just use meets and bounds and different markers. So it's fun to read that. And I don't know if you could figure out where that is, but anyway, but he is selling the 90 acres, and it says how much he's selling it for. So that is that one. And like I said, sometimes you'll even get more information. So let's go to this 289, image 289, and I'll push the enter. And this is going to be the one in in book M, page 33. And let me show you the page numbers on this because they're actually written in the middle. And sometimes if you can't read it on a page, so see this is 34, and then let's go over here. So 33 would be on this side. Yep, that's 33. But see how that's kind of hard? Sometimes if you're having a hard time, go page ahead or page back and kind of figure out which one it is. So this one is really interesting because this is a sale. So we're going to go down. It's down here at the bottom. So this Elijah Payton bill of sale executed by John Mayfield. And so what's interesting about this one is it says John Mayfield is from the county of Williamson. And so you could go look for him in Williamson. That would give you another county to look at. And so what he is selling is a Negro man slave for life for, I think it's about $100. I couldn't tell for sure on that. But what's interesting about this is that the name of the Negro man is Solomon, and he's about 31 years old. And this was in 1825, and so this is Solomon. You know, you can figure out about when he was born in the late 1700s. And maybe you'll find him again even in like the 1850 census, possibly, and possibly not, but maybe that'll help in figuring out some slave records or slaves too. So anyway, I thought that was interesting that he is selling a slave, and he's from Williamson. So anyway, you'll see a lot of different things like those gifts. So take a look at this, and I hope that you'll try searching in your county. And if you have questions, let me know, and happy hunting.